Good day, everyone. I am the Snowdic Scribe, your humble servant in all things lore. I have something a bit different this time, as there has been a lot of drama surrounding the state of Final Fantasy XIV and its future as of late. Don't worry, this video isn't about me saying what I personally want to see in the future, because what I'd want isn't necessarily what everyone else would want. This also isn't a video about the state of Final Fantasy XIV. Anyone who seriously thinks that this MMO is suddenly dead or dying hasn't been paying attention to the numbers. This game is still making Square Enix tons of money, regardless of how people felt about Endwalker. No, I wanted to wait for the tension to relax just a bit so I could finally explain what I have observed about this game's progress from the beginning. A bit of perspective from a historian, one might say. For those of you who don't know, I've been playing Final Fantasy XIV since 1.0, and yes, 1.0 was indeed horrid. The respect that was gained from the creation of A Realm Reborn is well earned. They performed nothing less than a miracle of work ethic and vision. And despite how you feel about ARR, not many studios would have been able to pull off what they did. So you gotta put at least a little respect on its name. And ever since 2.0's launch, I've watched Yoshi P and his team change many things about the game over the years. Some changes have been rapid, while others have taken their time. Some changes I've enjoyed, others not so much. But at least things were changing. For example, PvP looks nothing like it did on release, and I would say more people are happy with what it is now versus what it was back then. Honestly, it's refreshing to play an MMO where it feels like the creators are really trying, even if I don't always see every change as positive. So, I'm going to break this video down into 3 parts, and hopefully by the end you'll better understand what I mean when I speak about the future of Final Fantasy XIV. Part 1. The reason. The entire reason I'm making this video is very simple. I read an interview between IGN Brazil and Yoshi P, and something stuck out to me. Specifically, they asked him about the current 2-minute meta and homogenization of jobs. And his answer was something I feel many players overlook. That's a difficult question. We have skill rotations varying between 60 and 120 seconds for the most intense phases, and that's how it works currently. But the reason it's like this today is that we've received, in the past, feedback from all over the world saying that the timing of fights were difficult. It was difficult to align skills between classes. We were asked to unify everything. And precisely because we received these requests to homogenize this, we homogenized it. This interview was great, as it reveals that we really are in the driver's seat when it comes to Final Fantasy XIV's future. And Yoshi P isn't wrong. I remember all the way back in the days of OG Binding Coil, you'd have players complaining about things like ability windows for raging strikes and the like. This got much worse when the raids in Heavensward released, as those boss fights were severely overtuned. Indeed, my friends, back then, the problem had nothing to do with job balance or ability windows. The raid designers simply made the encounters way too powerful. I'm not joking when I say Pepsi Man destroyed many raid teams. Probably ruined some friendships now that I think about it. It wasn't great. Those were really strange times. But, over the years, those raiders who complained about the tightness of things like DPS windows and boss encounters ultimately got what they wanted. Which raises the question, if players got what they wanted, then why are people now complaining about job homogenization? Part 2. The vocal minority versus the silent majority. For those not familiar with this term, it's exactly what it sounds like. People that are the most vocal about something are usually in the minority of that demographic. Because no matter how passionate they feel about something, most individuals aren't going to feel the exact same way they do. If they surround themselves with people who think like they do, it'll certainly feel like there's a lot of them. But that projection is often an illusion. Because when compared to those who either don't care or don't have a strong opinion either way, the difference in numbers between those that are vocal and those that are silent can become drastic. And, as it turns out, that's the trend I've observed in Final Fantasy XIV's growth over the years. Let's continue to use the prior interview as an example. Homogenization was a result of complaints from players about DPS windows, raids, job balance, etc. But the only ones that truly had a strong opinion on that were the hardcore players and raiders. They were quite vocal about these things for sure, but raiders don't make up the majority of the community. While I couldn't find current raiding numbers, the history of this MMO has proven that, on average, only about 20 to 25% of players actually finish an expansion's raid tier across the world. Don't get me wrong, that's no small number by any means, but by definition, it is the minority when compared to the rest of the community. So, if they are the minority, why listen to them? Simple. Because while the other 80% were simply playing the game and keeping quiet, they spoke up. They raised their voices, they were heard, and many of them got what they wanted. Now the people that have been silent up to this point are beginning to speak up instead. Do you see now what I've been watching this entire time? It's a vicious cycle. The hardcore players will complain, which makes the softcore players wonder why their abilities are suddenly different. And if the softcore gets everything they want, the midcore will complain that things are becoming too weird and easy. It's a constant battle of finger pointing when in reality, we only have ourselves to blame. The development staff are constantly getting mixed signals. I've watched the vocal minority and silent majority of Final Fantasy XIV change from expansion to expansion over the years. But there is a way out. And for you, my friends, I offer the ultimate escape from this never-ending cycle. Part 3. Compromise. In the prior interview, Yoshi P said this: "We're okay with making things a little crazy and having different timings between all the classes. But again, we made these changes because we got feedback that it was too difficult before. We understand that there are two types of players, so going forward, regardless of whether we change this or not, the community needs to reach a consensus. Which is better? Before changing something, we need to get feedback from everyone." He's not wrong. This cycle of satisfying one group at a time isn't a permanent solution to the problems like the state of jobs in Final Fantasy XIV. If they only listen to the vocal minority every expansion, then there will be another set of complaints from different players later down the road. The way to break this cycle is compromise. As players, we need to be mature enough to accept that we won't always get everything we want. But so long as we're getting the core of what we desire, that should be enough. Raiders who want tight boss windows benefit from homogenization, but more casual players who likely have no desire to raid want jobs to feel more unique and exciting. A compromise must be made between these two. For example, casual players, you may indeed get what you want, and in the future jobs might be more distinct and less homogenized. However, this will likely increase the skill ceiling, making some jobs harder to master than others. Things won't be as easy or simple as they are now. Are you prepared for everything that entails? Meanwhile, raiders, trust me when I say you want the casual and mid-core players to be happy. These people make up the biggest chunk of money an MMO generates, and without them, you wouldn't be getting things like ultimates in the first place. The total number of people playing things like ultimate material don't make up the difference with how much time and money goes into making those fights. If you want difficult content more regularly, You need to accept that the moneymakers have to be satisfied. The truth is, most players don't care if jobs are optimized. What they do care about is if they're fun. If you want something, be prepared to sacrifice something. Compromise is all about getting as much of what you want in exchange for a little bit of what you probably didn't. That being said, don't be fooled, my friends. There are party poopers out there that won't be pleased no matter what the developers do. It's better to ignore them, and I ask that you pity their self-imposed misery, as there's no such thing as making them happy. The Final Fantasy XIV community has been celebrated multiple times as being the best of any MMO. Well, the time to prove it has come once again. So long as you are prepared to compromise with your fellow players, I honestly believe that most everyone can get some of what they desire when it comes to the future of this MMO. That being said, it's time to speak up. All of us, no more vocal minority or silent majority. Everyone needs to be honest about what they want out of the future of this game. Dawntrail marks a new age for Final Fantasy XIV, and I, like many other players, want it to be the best it can be. So ask yourself, what do you desire? And what are you prepared to compromise in order to get it? I understand that I've only used jobs as an example today, but there are many other parts of the game I feel that we can reach an agreement with. All we need to do is talk it out and find the middle ground. However, that'll be all from me for now. I just wanted to express my thoughts on this while it's still a relative topic of discussion. I hope people understand that I'm not trying to throw shade at any one side of the community with this. I really did take what Yoshi P said during the interview to heart, and it's my hope that we better understand what different parts of the community desire and finally give his team the answers they're waiting for. Don't be afraid to express your thoughts in the comment section below, and remember to be respectful to those you may or may not agree with. But that will be all from me. I have been the Synodic Scribe, and I'm looking forward to exploring Dawntrail with everyone. So, until my next lore video, stay safe, my friends. Thank you all for watching to the end. If you enjoyed this video, why not subscribe and share this with your fellow adventurers? With your help, I'll try to reach out even further and bring even greater stories to you. Although, I'd be remiss if I didn't acknowledge my biggest contributors. A grand thank you to Amina Viltaria, Slippers, Potato, Sage Mouse, Sinalv Bagel, Cizani, and Travan Shea, with an additional nod to the scholarships on screen. Links to things like my Twitter and that of my channel artist Caddy can be found in the description. Thank you all for your viewership as well as your support, and I hope all of you have a wonderful day. Class dismissed.